Hello, this is Jerry from Execute Fitness University, and today we're going to talk about the ketogenic diet. This is a diet that has carb cycling, as a couple of other protocols we're seeing, is getting very popular right now, and as you can see on top, is based on eating mostly fat, 25% protein, and very, very little carbohydrates. And those percentages is something that we will have to analyze very, very in depth, so you can understand that this is exactly what it needs to be done, because some people really confuses eating no carbohydrates with eating a lot of protein, have fat, while in reality, when you want to do ketogenic, specifically ketogenic diet, it's much better. Actually, we have to keep the fat as a primary substrate. So again, topic of the week is an advanced nutrition protocol. It's not for everybody. It's kind of difficult to keep, and if somebody actually advise you to do it, you should ask if they did it before, because especially when you go with a coach and is suggesting you to go on this kind of diet, you need to be aware of the hints of the hormonal imbalance that this diet creates, especially on the mood, and on at times even energy level, that for some people is better, for some people, most of people, is not actually the best. It is also is a similar to the modern protocols. We can include it into the other diets, such as the elimination diet, detox diet, metabolic repair diet. Is getting a lot of attention for weight loss, but in reality wasn't really invented for that, and we will get more in depth for what was invented for. So, what do we know about this diet? The diet itself, standard ketogenic diets, we understand that it works on a cellular level, and investigate the finer detail. It becomes to the knowledge that it's quite advanced. And it's based on the manipulation of the carbohydrates. So typically, we will see it will be the amount of carbohydrates that needs to be 100 kilograms or less per day. And if we stay on this 100 gram or less per day, body start creating ketones which are produced by the liver, and will then be used at the first substrate of energy level instead of carbohydrates, in order to obviously to run down fat and to create energy of that. So then we'll go into depth of how this is happening, but the idea is to understand what needs to be done in order to make this happen. So let's see what the research says in regard to the ketogenic diet. So the research said that specifically it was created, and it also is the only real finding that there is, that it's better to treat stuff or diseases such as epilepsy and some type of tumors as well, since obviously tumors, the cells that nourish tumors is primarily glucose. So by taking away obviously the glucose, the sugar, we have a lot of benefits on curing those type of diseases. Epilepsy, again, it was shown in some research that the ketogenic diet had an impact of having a lot of people having less and less epilepsy attack. So that's what it was created for. Now, with all the marketing around it, specifically but the Atkins diet, that if you go to any of the grocery stores, you can see that are widely promoted, even by those small little bars and replacement food of the Atkins diets, that is believed to be able to give some changes in body composition. We will go in depth into that, in some case, obviously, it's true if we also include a calorie balance, or better say, a hypocaloric diet, so less calorie than we're supposed to need. There will be some body changes as well as due to the hormone. How does it work? The philosophy behind it is the body needs to fuel primarily on carbohydrates, then on amino acids. So the first fuel of the body is usually carbohydrates, then amino acid or protein, or in this case in the body muscle, then fatty free acid, and then ketones. Some study also shows that in reality we use primarily glucose and then fat, and then number 3 the protein. And again, this is arguably you're gonna find everywhere. If you find at least 10 study that says one thing, 10 studies says another thing. Now the reality is that if you take off carbo from the equations, there will be a shift on the utilization of fat, protein, and ketones. Now, if we make the fat as a primary energy source, so we increase the fat, as we said, at least 70%, as we said above, then by depleting carbohydrates, your liver, after about a week, will start creating these ketones. It's very different than ketoacidosis that will generally create very, very health problems. Ketones, this is simply ketones body is like something that is produced by the body itself, and it can be used, it's kind of like a waste product, but it can be used for metabolic functions as the body requires. So how does it work? Again, the ketones becomes then the primary source of energy, not glucose. The metabolism is shift to depleting the glucose on the muscle and the liver, and then why we need to reduce at least almost by 5% only carbohydrates, under 100 grams a day for sure for a while. Why is this diet hard to keep or sustain? Is because obviously we are social, there is a weekend for everybody, there is at least a weekend every 2 or 3 weeks that we do something or we go somewhere, and what ends up happening as soon as you eat with your friend as an extra meal of carb, and you give this body those carbs, your body get off of ketosis right away, and then so you lose maybe the idea of this ketogenic state that we have built in the past 2 weeks. Why does it happen? Because the body doesn't like this kind of diet. The body needs a homeostasis of that. So what we see happen as well is a lot of people reacting really bad, being really irritated with this kind of diets, and I would not, to be honest, promote this diet for weight loss, or better, like an ideal weight loss or fat loss. I would promote it only in a case that you have an athlete or a person that needs to do a contest by weight, so similar to boxing, to enter to a category of weight. So you will drop weight in the case of most done by the fact that carbohydrates hold 2 grams of water times for each gram of carbohydrates. So again, there will be water retention from carb. There will be a lot of water drops, some muscle drop as well. So you will lose a lot of pounds on the scale, but not necessarily will be on fat. There will be some fat, but it wouldn't be more fat if you would do like the regular carbohydrates diet. So the tissue of the body will be used as the fuel source that has a greater concentration on the bloodstream. If you reduce carbohydrates, there will be less carbohydrates in the bloodstream, and fat again will become the primary fuel, as we said before. There is one exception of the brain. So at this point, the ketones will need to become available to ensure, so we need to eat a lot of fat to make sure that this product that is created by the liver, ketones, helps out the brain, because we do need the brain is pretty much the only organ of the body that needs sugar or something similar, has energy. That's why many people with this kind of diet are very foggy, very hard to concentrate, very irritable, not able to sustain this diet for more than 2 weeks, and that's end up. Personally, I would never suggest this, because again, I am not able to sustain this diet for probably more than a couple of days. So let's see with the calorie in with calorie out equation, and why a lot of people advocate this diet, for the fact that you can pretty much, even if you eat more calorie, you're gonna see the hormones react in a different way. It's true, insulin is not, and then there is a whole idea of the insulin, but again, if you take more carbohydrates than needed, or like if you take carbohydrate as a set, your metabolic set point, if you take the normal caloric or hypercaloric, even though you're doing this kind of diet, you're not going to lose weight. You're not going to lose fat, and you're not going to lose weight. So the idea is always to have a caloric deficit, and there is a whole instructional video. We could make a video just how to cycle the whole thing, but obviously we want to create at least 300 to 500 calories per day of lower calorie intake if you want to lose weight, no matter if you use carbohydrates or you don't. So when you create this imbalance, then there will be weight loss, even using this kind of diet. The idea with this kind of diet, ketogenic, Atkins diet, all this low carbohydrates diet, that maybe can give a little bit, if you, let's say if you do 2 or 3 days, 500 calorie less, then you go to to your metabolic set point. So you had this on the 4 days, so you eat a little more. It will not impact your insulin a lot, so it will still probably give you an additional weight loss. So you can cycle, you can do, for example, low, normal caloric, low, maybe hypercaloric one day, and then low, something like that. And it will still not impact, you obviously won't have any water retention because there is no carbs, so it might be an ideal diet if you can sustain it that long. Insulin is one of the main contributor to, obviously, to fat gain at times, especially in not conditioned athlete or people. So obviously not having this blood sugar blood up and down graph with the insulin, then we don't have as much of this problem. So again, it could be useful for many people. The glucagon is the opposite of insulin. It's released when there is very few blood glucose level. So again, as glucagon rises, it breaks down stored fuel for energy. We have to kind of make sure that we don't use too much of the protein or the muscle. So we don't want to what we don't want to do is don't want to exceed with the protein intake, because what it will do, instead of using the fat and creating ketones, it will use the protein that you put in the body or your muscle and create sugar from that. So if you put too many protein, more than 25%, it will no longer be a ketogenic diet, and what it will do, you will use your muscle in part as the protein you put in, as well as energy, and that's why this diet is never indicated to preserve muscle, lean muscle quality, and again, I don't see why any coach would promote this diet, especially for athletes like bodybuilders or people that want to put on muscle, as everybody should, because there is so many advantages with higher intake of carbohydrates, a few of them being the thyroid level that are higher, the leptin level being higher, so the metabolism working way faster with carbohydrates in it. And again, I really see only a benefit when you have to drop few pounds very quickly, maybe to have this illusion on the scale that you're losing weight. But again, I would not promote this diet for more than that. Results, triglycerides are broken down and so are free, but again, we have to make a distinction between having the broken down fat into the bloodstream and having the broken down fat into the bloodstream and then oxidize out, so losing it. So what we need to do in addition to do this diet, again, always lower calorie than we need. As I said, 300 to 500 calorie average on a day, with a few recharge days, then we need to eat more than you're supposed to, otherwise your metabolism will completely stall and plateau, because this kind of diet specifically tend to slow down the metabolism instead of speeding it up. The protein might be broken down into amino acid, stored in the liver. Glycogen is stored in the liver, might be broken down into glucose. Again, we need to make sure to keep this state for more than at least a week to be sure that we actually into this kind of state, ketogenic state. Ketogenesis, low level of insulin plus high level of glucagon with depleted glycogen level in the liver. That's exactly what it creates ketogenesis, and that's, you will pretty much know when you are in there on this state, because your breath will stink a lot. Will stink a little more. You will be similar to the sometimes the polish, when you polish the floor, and there is all these chemicals, and that's why, because the ketones is actually comes from the fact that it's chemically similar to the composition of some of the cleaning products. Here we can see a little a little physiology of what it looks like. This is not a chemistry or physiology or anatomy class, so I won't keep it long. However, you can see here that limited supply of carbohydrates in the liver will release some waste products and go directly to the brain, to other organs, and then here the urea. The fatty free acid will basically be released on the muscle as energy and into the bloodstream as well. The adaptation process, the first 24 hours, the body is still used to the previous meal, so we need to at least roughly let 24 hours pass. 50% of body energy comes from fatty acid after 10 hours without the carbohydrates. Insulin and glucose are decreasing, but glucagon and GH are high. So again, first 24 hours, then within the second day on, the body finally relying on mostly mostly fat. Typically the glycogen is gone completely in 24 hours. So we need to, the first 24 to 48 hours are more difficult for the body to adapt. And again, then you will start using the fat primarily. The adaptation, 2 to 7 days, we have a total body fuel requirement met by fat and ketones, also increasing the own producing of own glucose, so that the body will produce glucose from other, again, from primarily muscle, from these ketones, and instead of producing it from the actual glucose that we have or that we eat. Usually after the 4th day the body is in ketosis. The second week down regulates gluconeogenesis, so we'll stop on the second week is when we'll stop producing sugar from the muscle, so we'll preserve more the muscle. The liver obviously start producing more by the 3rd day as well. The lipolysis, the lipolytic effect, we primarily break down fat at this point, and if we are on a hypocaloric diet, less calorie than we need, we will lose that fat as well. Will we lose that faster than if you eat like a regular diet with carbohydrates? There is no proof of that. So again, unless you don't particularly need it, that you are sick or you have somebody that needs have a benefit of that, or want to drop weight, and in this case a stress weight, because I never like to talk about weight, but if you want to drop weight on the scale, this is the diet you want to do. Protein and benefit and negatives. So the diet is without carbohydrates is catabolic, and again, it has a negative impact on the metabolism. Will slow it down. Not ideal for people that want to recover faster and muscle growth. I would not suggest this diet, as well as the initial phase are usually the hardest part. The ketogenic diet can become protein sparing once adapted. We're talking about the first 2 weeks. So if you don't get by the first 2 weeks, you basically lost a bunch of muscle, and then you won't continue. You basically doing it for nothing. So either you stay on it, and you can always try it and see how it is, but if you stay on it, otherwise it's a waste of time. Benefit and negative of fat loss, very little research promotes the fact that a traditional diet and a ketogenic diet, if we take the same amount of calorie, less than you need, will one do better than another one. So it's really good when you have the idea that you want to lose weight quicker, and there is no metabolic advantage on a ketogenic diet. I'm gonna add something here, that if you eat about 150 grams of carbohydrates or less, you might want to jump in this kind of diet, because the only time that you want to utilize carbohydrates and having a real benefit of the thyroid, leptin, having the metabolism go faster, is when you eat more than 150 grams of carbohydrate. If you eat less of 150 grams of carbohydrate, then you might want to jump in this kind of diet. And also, this is what I wanted to say as far as fat loss. It's also good for appetite control. Some people tend to be more satiated. I'm saying some people, because some people need to eat a lot more to be oversatiated, and then end up eating more calorie. Remember, calorie from fat is 9 calories per gram against 4 of protein and carbs. So again, it's very easy to put on calorie with the fat. Not to mention that you need to hit the right kind of fat. And here there will be a whole webinar about protein, fat, and carbs, and which one is good. But however, what I'm saying, again, appetite control is very suggestive. So the fact that some people are more hungry than others is completely subjective. There is no research that suggests ketogenic diets suppress appetite in any role. Again, purely feedback from people and from blogs and from some books. Obviously, if you buy a book for a ketogenic diet, there are going to be a lot of studies that will twist the science in believing that it's good. Performance level. Again, high activity of exercise might not be sustainable with this kind of diet. If you eat exercising frequently, you should not follow this diet. For people that study a lot, needs to go to school, I would say I would not also. Again, remember, the brain needs sugar to work. When it's low, it's very tough. Deficiencies. There is always room for protection. The deficiency to creatine. Beneficial of the ketogenic diet is very short term only. There going to be a lot of electrolyte imbalance for sure, because there is going to be a lot of water lost, and if you drink coffee or if you drink alcohol or tea, you're going to need to drink extra water for sure. Setting up the ketogenic diet, is important to understand the macros and the food. The goal is to create a pro-ketogenic state. So again, consider fat, protein, carb, alcohol, water, caffeine, fiber, macronutrient, and between all these things that I listed here, none of those will really, except for the carbohydrate, will make a difference. So you can drink caffeine, fiber. The calories are important to keep it to either be hyper or hypo, depending whether you want to put on muscle or lose weight. It's going to be very hard to put muscle on this diet, I can tell you that, guys. Alcohol will dehydrate you more, so again, pay attention to how much, as well as caffeine for that matter. So pay attention to how much water you're going to drink. Make sure you drink extra water. Water, again, being 1 liter times 1,000 calories. So if you eat a 2,000 calorie diet, you're supposed to drink at least 2 liter, which if you go like by a gallon a day, you're more than that. Also, you need to include the water to get rid of the protein at the kidney level. So that will be an additional 200, 300, 400 milligrams a day. So it's important to know that. Who's it for? Again, people that are 150 grams of carbs already less, that things that putting the carb at that level, like for example on a zone diet at times, get to that level, so they think that it's doing a good job. I would personally say that it's better at this point, since you're not having the thyroid support, just to go directly inside this diet. If you are one person, it's very hard to get shredded with carbohydrates on it. You retain a lot of water, just use it. Try and see what it is like. But again, there are protocols much less intense. For example, carb cycling, which you could do, for example, 3 days of low carb, like around 30 to 50 to less than 100 grams a day, and then cycling back up. You will not have so much water retention. You can try again to see what is for you. If you have any question, let me know. Thanks for joining me, and keep up with a good job.